This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. If you want to be prominent, I got the guy at Prominence Global, Mr. Adam Houlihan, master of LinkedIn. So great to have you.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you, David, and really looking forward to today.
Now, for consultants and experts and trusted advisors, I would argue, and I think you would agree, there's probably no better platform than LinkedIn. In fact, some people might even say, you should just be focused on LinkedIn, let everything else go. And for a high-fee consultant, it should all be about LinkedIn. Is that accurate? What have you seen with people sort of doubling down on LinkedIn? What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, obviously, you could suggest that I might be a little bit biased considering all we do is LinkedIn. However, let me be somewhat balanced about that and say I wouldn't personally buy into the concept that you should only be on LinkedIn. I do believe that, what you need to do is have a look at where your ideal clients hang out, and you actually need to be there. It's just highly likely that if you're in those high-paid consulting or coaching industries, that they're more than likely going to be on LinkedIn. So, I would say you really want to probably do really, really well on two platforms. And it's just highly likely that LinkedIn will be one of them.
Tremendous. Okay, so thank you for moderating my extremist view on that. Let's talk about sort of LinkedIn from the ground up, because LinkedIn, much more so than all the other social platforms, people have been on it, they've neglected it, they've let it sit, they've let it go dormant, sometimes for years, in the case of LinkedIn, sometimes for decades. When we're really looking at a LinkedIn strategy, walk us through what comes first, what comes second, what comes third, how do we revive and reboot our LinkedIn strategy?
It's a great question, David. And let me just start that by maybe just giving you some numbers to get your head around. Like right now, ballpark 700 million people on LinkedIn, 2 new people joining the platform every second. Like that's literally every second of every day, of every week, of every month. That's been going on for a number of years now. So LinkedIn's own goals are to have around 3 billion members. I'm not sure that they'll reach that, but they'll certainly exceed 1 billion. It is a place where you want to be, but if you're going to be there, you've got to have a really good presence. And as you alluded to, there's lots of people that have, just joined because people said you should join LinkedIn, never really done anything with their profile, religiously checking on it once a month or something like that. And of course, from a personal branding perspective, if somebody does go looking for your profile, and more to the point, quite often, again, what we do is we go, let's get a website built. And of course, your website developer says, you've got to connect all your social platforms to it. So, by default, your LinkedIn profile gets connected to your website, and then people actually can find you very easily. And the point is, though, if they go to that link and then they find let's just say a less than ideal presence, then that's the first impression they get of you as an individual. Your LinkedIn profile most likely will be if I did a Google search on you, the most likely thing that will come up, number 1 or number 2, is going to be your LinkedIn profile and your personal website if you have one. So these often are the very first impressions people get of you. So essentially, and you nailed it, you said, what's step 1, step 2, and step 3? Because it is literally what's step 1, 2, 3. The first step is you have to have a really well optimized profile. Now, when I say that, most people think I mean that it just has to look good. It certainly does have to look good. However, it also has to be optimized from an algorithm perspective. LinkedIn is hyper-driven by algorithms. Well, look, all platforms are, to be honest, but LinkedIn especially is hyper-driven by its algorithms. So it's looking to make a connection of 3 things. One is your profile, who it's designed for, like who is it that you want to be shown to in searches. They also want to connect it with your content and see that there's an alignment between who you want to be connecting with and the type of content you're sharing, which take that to subtly mean no cat photos or dog photos or what you're doing on the weekend type stuff. That's for another platform or multiple other platforms. Your content really needs to be, highly optimized for the people you want to be reaching out to. And the third part is they want to make see a connection between who you're connecting with as first degree connections. When you can align all three of those, then a lot of magic happens and your profile gets treated much differently. Again, it's a bit of a myth. People think that LinkedIn's a very fair and level playing field. I guarantee you it's not. Profiles are treated differently relative to the value they deliver to LinkedIn.
And talk a little bit, when you say optimize, people are probably thinking a couple of different things, and hopefully people are right now in their LinkedIn profile with their mouse hovering over the edit button. Let's walk through it. Are we talking about search engine optimization? Are we talking about messaging optimization? And we can even let's start with the professional headline up at the top, talk about the about section, the way you like to teach your clients how to do it. Kind of give us a little mini makeover about all the crazy things we're doing wrong and some things that we should be optimizing.
From both of those perspectives, from an internal search engine optimization, so LinkedIn optimization, and also from the message, like you said, of what you're sharing. So if we really started at the top of your profile, the number one thing you should have is a background image that either says something about who you are or what you do. There's no kind of right or wrong. Well, there is a wrong. The wrong is to have nothing. If you just have that standard blue background that LinkedIn gives you, that immediately signals that you don't really care about your profile. So it's not the best first impression of you. So a good background image is really important. Moving down from there and to the left is the profile image of yourself. Now, of course, these should be, again, this is the first representation of you people are going to see. So a couple of things, it should be up to date. I've had times where I've met with people from LinkedIn. Now, when I meet, it could be like we're doing now online in a live sense or face-to-face, where let's just say that the individual didn't match the image I was expecting. I'll give you an example of that. One where, the lady that I was meeting with online was, let's just say, about 30 years older than what her profile image was. Not that I had an issue with her age. I just had this immediate disconnect because I was expecting one thing and I saw something else. The other, again, is someone I met with face-to-face who, let's just say, his profile image was, I'm in Australia, so we use metric, 30 kilos out of date, which I think is about 50 pounds on the wrong side of that equation. So again, just what I mean is, make sure that profile image is reasonably, it doesn't have to be taken by a professional photographer, but at least it's a good image and it's reasonably up to date. Moving down from there, as you said, professional headline. Professional headline is really important. This is the first area where LinkedIn's going to start from an SEO perspective, starting to look at what you put in there. Now, by default, if you don't put anything there, they're just going to put your job title that you use. You don't want that. You want to be able to use this area to give a bit of an outline of, what it is you do, but also what I like to sort of suggest is if you were to think of it like keywords, search, if I said, I can give you all the traffic on Google for 3 search terms, what would those search terms be? What would be the most valuable search terms for you to show up in if you got all the traffic from Google? Now, by the way, Dave, I can't do that, but what I mean is that you want to be using that section to put 2 or 3 really critical keywords. So if you use me as an example, if you look at my profile, you see it says LinkedIn expert. Clearly, I want to show up for a search. If someone's typing in LinkedIn expert, I want to show up for that. Another one is a keynote speaker. They're the type of terms that you want to use in that section. And then you can either bullet point it, or you can weave it into a short sentence. It doesn't matter which way you do. You got about 240 characters of text. So I think the short sentence style is good. Moving down from there, like you said, the about section. Now, this by default is not even on your profile. You have to actually activate it. And I still see lots of people that don't have it there. And this is, again, the most likely part. If remember, you know that if somebody comes onto your profile, they're usually just going to have a quick look and decide whether or not they're going to read down further. So this is the first part where you can write a little bit about yourself, and it should be about you, but more so from, like outlining what's important to you, why you do what you do, what's the problem you solve in the world, how you solve it, that type of information. Not so much about your product or service. This is your opportunity to get people to buy into and invest in you as an individual, more so than a service that you might provide. That, though, is obviously where, when you get down into the professional job title or whatever you want to call it, that's where that information should be. And again, I see a lot of people that will have their position description listed, but really nothing about it. You're missing a huge opportunity. If people are going, you remember, this is coming down and down and down. You think about it like the above the fold on a landing page or whatever. The critical stuff's got to be at the top, and you really got to create compelling reasons for people to keep going further and further into your profile. And it's not often that they'll go much past this section, but it is very important to give a good outline of what you do, as in what are the products and services and what's the problem they solve, that type of stuff. And the really critical one is what you actually use as your job title, because again, this is one of the really critical sections that LinkedIn's using for aligning who you should be shown to in searches. And what I mean by that is often people will default to putting something like CEO or president or vice president or whatever your title is. Now, that's fine as long as you want to get shown to all the marketers of the world who are out to sell something to the president of the company. What you should really do is, and again, if you have a look at mine as an example, it'll say, LinkedIn expert. So again, I'm the CEO of our company, but you won't see that virtually anywhere in my title, because that's a red flag to the bulls of marketers that, you're just going to get inundated with people trying to pitch products and services to you. Now, I'm not suggesting, yes, to some degree, you shouldn't be doing, similar to that. But what I'm meaning is the searches you come up with won't be necessarily the right searches. You want to be more descriptive around, think again as the job title as a really strong keyword indicator to LinkedIn, and make sure that you align it. Put it this way, what's in that section should probably be up in the professional headline as well. And then the third place that's really critical is getting down further into your profile, but there's a section that is about endorsements for skills. Now, again, people often say, I can have like 50 skills or whatever. How can you have that many? The reality is there's only 3 that really matter, because there's 3 that get pinned to the top. And those 3, again, are the ones LinkedIn are kind of going to use for showing you in searches. It's also the ones where people are likely to endorse you for those. And again, people say once it shows more than 99, it just says 99 plus. So it doesn't really matter once you get past 99. If you have a look at that section on your cell phone, you'll actually see a different count. You see the true number, which what you should take from that means that LinkedIn is counting the number of people who endorse you for those top 3 skills. And the more you get endorsed for those top 3 skills, the more it tells LinkedIn that it's like, well, you can write all about yourself and say how great you are, but we're going to take the opinion of the masses, so to speak. So it is important that you get endorsed for those skills, but it's more important that you have the top 3 aligned with your job title and your professional headline. Big mouthful of answer of what you asked for, but that's essentially what it's all about.
Hey, this interview is a real moneymaker. If you're serious about ramping up your reach and revenue as a speaker, trainer, or expert, book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team. The link is doitmarketing.com/call. It will be the most valuable 45 minutes you invest in your speaking-driven business. Speaking of value, let's get back to the show. And so it's also notable that in addition to the skills, as of this recording, and it's going to be different tomorrow, you have 266 written recommendations. And they're all glowing, by the way. But without reading any of them, that is a huge data point in and of itself, that here's Adam Houlihan, 266 people. They didn't just click a little button. They just didn't say LinkedIn expert. They've written longhand recommendations about you and your work and the results of working with you. How important is that? Is there a ratio that you recommend, like a connection to recommendation ratio? If I have 100 connections, I should have 10. If I have 200 connections, I should have 20. How do you recommend people catch up with their recommendations so they stand head and shoulders above the crowd like you do?
Yeah, it's again a great question, David. So it's not really part of the profile optimization, because obviously it's something you can't put on your profile, that has to be done by somebody else. So where it comes into is strategy. And yes, you do want to have a strategy around getting recommendations. But what I would say, it's not a race. What's more important is consistency. So I would much prefer to see somebody who has 12 recommendations, but they're getting one every month. Now, if you think about it, if let's say I was doing a search for somebody in a specific industry, I'd come down to two people that both look really interesting. I've had both of their profiles look okay. One of them's got 50 recommendations, but none of them were more recent than 3 years ago. And I see the other person who's got 12, but every month for the last 12 months, somebody has provided that recommendation. Then in my eyes, at least, the more credible person is that person, because it's up to date, it's relevant. He's clearly working with people right now because, they're going to this trouble of leaving him a recommendation, as opposed to this person who hasn't done anything for 3 years. So yeah, it's more about what I would say consistency than a specific number. It's no real need to be a ratio of connections. Just one or two a month is what I would suggest is a good idea.
I like that. It's not a numbers game, it's a consistency game. And it's a relevance game and a reliability game, that people need to know that you're showing up month after month, doing the good work that you do with your clients. Let me open it up here a little bit just for some Adam Houlihan magic, some ninja tricks, some insider things that people might want to try on their profile. What are your clients having some good success with as far as quick wins, changes that are making a big impact in a fairly short amount of time?
So then the first one is there's a new section that's, again, optional that you can put on your profile, which is called the featured section. And it sits very much up in that above the fold that we were talking about earlier. Now, if you had a look at my profile right now, you'll see I'm using that section to promote a webinar that we're running in a couple of weeks' time. And, once that webinar has taken place, we'll change that out and change it to something else. So, probably like our 90-day challenge or something like that. It's not so much a set and forget. You should update it on a regular basis. And it's one of the only areas on your profile where you can put a link that goes off the LinkedIn platform and to your website or landing page or something of credibility. You might be an interview with the legend David D. So, whatever it might be, you can click off LinkedIn to there. It's literally about the only place where you can easily do that on LinkedIn. The second, so I'd highly recommend using that's updated kind of monthly or every 6 weeks or something like that. Another good little ninja tip is in your content. Now, LinkedIn really does not like you sharing links to, and this is one of, I would say, the number one mistake that I see every single day, is people kind of think that LinkedIn's just like every other platform. The reality is none of the other platforms like it either, but LinkedIn's very sensitive to it. Now, if you write a post, now they're called status posts, which is the short form content pieces. They're limited to 1,300 characters of text. Everything on LinkedIn works in character counts, not word counts, but as a ballpark, 1,300 characters is about 210, 220 words. But of course, what everyone does, or not everyone, but what people are doing is putting a link in that 1,300 characters to, like we just said, to do on your profile. Now, as soon as you do that, there's a little bot that comes along, and it's looking at your content, and it's looking for 3 reasons to not show it to the wider community. One of them is that it's got that link there. As soon as it sees that, it goes, okay, we don't want this being promoted. They're not stopping you from putting it on there. They're just making sure nobody sees it. So the ninja tip, David, is not to put the link in the top part of the body of the content, put a line at the bottom that says, if you're interested in this, comment below and I'll share the link with you today. And then you share it. Or, what a lot of people do is they'll put something like see link in first comment below and they'll put the link down there. The bots are not checking the comments. They're only checking up in the higher area. So that's my two big ninja tips of what will get you a lot more traction than pretty much anything else.
I love that. Now, I'm just curious because you mentioned there's 3 things the bots are looking for. One is an off-site link. What are the other 2?
Okay, it's a good question. So believe it or not, one of the other ones is any form of profanity. So the bots know how to swear and they don't like it. So I'm sure most of everyone here today probably wouldn't fall foul of that one anyway. Interestingly enough, the third one is any form of religious views. Essentially, you can imagine, and you probably noticed, you don't see a lot of sort of hate type information on LinkedIn, is because there are critical kinds of words and things it's looking for, and it just suppresses a lot of that content, which is kind of a good thing in my opinion.
Right. Interesting. Now, I'm sure you get this question a lot. They say, Adam, I'm on LinkedIn, sort of, I see everyone has Sales Navigator. Do I need Sales Navigator? Do I need some paid level or paid version of LinkedIn to do the magic that you recommend with your clients doing your sort of full-on LinkedIn marketing campaigns? Do we just need to jump into that? Can we do a lot without doing that? What's your paid versus free opinion?
Again, great question. And I'd answer that by saying it depends on what you want to use your profile for. So if you just want to have a really good presence on LinkedIn so that when people are finding you, you look good, that sort of thing, you can get away with a free account. However, what I will say, every client in the world that works with us has a Sales Navigator account. The reason is that the level of the depth you can go into really drilling down into finding the right type of people, it's an unbelievable tool and worth every cent.
Let's talk about that for a moment. There's so many value bombs so far, but this might be the super value bomb. Even on the free version, mind you, there are search capabilities that would blow people's minds. If they've never spent 15, 20 minutes looking at all the different ways you can search for decision makers, prospects, clients, etc., let alone all the new things that open up in Sales Navigator, when you say if you're searching the right way, if you're connecting with the right people, you're using the right search parameters, share with people a little bit of what's available and then how you recommend people really zero in on that right kind of client with whatever hypothetical business you would like to use. But I think people need to understand how incredibly powerful it is, even the free version, but then certainly Sales Navigator.
Yeah. So in the free version, there's quite a number of good filters, is what they're called. And, you can filter by whether they're first degree connections or second degree, obviously. So let's say, for example, you're looking for people that you want to connect with who would be potentially your ideal clients. Now, what I would first say is why you would want to connect with those people may be a little bit different to what most people think. Well, at least in the way we use LinkedIn. So what we know and what we do is we know that the reason to connect with people is not so we can then go and pitch them, direct messages all the time. It's about, we know that algorithmically that the people we're connected to are the people who will see our content the most. So our way of looking at how we use Sales Navigator is more from who is it that we want to be having them consume our content on a regular basis. So that's the first litmus test of what we're going to use, whether you use that in the free or Sales Navigator. That's the reason for doing those searches. The second part is that, you might be, say, location specific. You might be a consultant, but you only work with people in a certain city somewhere in the world. So clearly you can filter down by that city. It might be by job titles, things like that. So most of that you can do in the free. What you can do at a much higher level in Sales Navigator is you can also sort of filter by things like what's their seniority in the company, what size company. Now, one thing that when I always say to clients is, who do you work with? And they'll give me a reasonable outline of that. And I'll say, what size company would they be in? And they, oh, well, any size company. I said, oh, really? So they could be a solopreneur up to 10,000 plus employees. I only really work with companies with 10 people. Right, okay, great. So Sales Navigator allows us to eliminate all the searches that come up in all the ones that, like I don't work with anybody that's in a company with 10,000 people. So there's no point in me wanting to connect with them and things like that. And we can't really work too well or help solopreneurs too well. So we want to filter those out. The other thing is, of course, is by how long they've been in the industry. So depending on what you do, it's quite possible that you need to do one of two things. You want to be connecting with people who've been in the industry a long time, or it could be the polar opposite. It could be that your sweet spot is people who've only just been in this industry for a year, because you have a great coaching service that's going to help them to go from that startup level to the next level. So you probably know that someone who's been in the industry for 10 years is probably less likely to be open to what you do. So you can get all these really high level filters down to get very granular with the right type of people. And then one of the most amazing filters that I absolutely swear by is that it also allows you to then, you've got that group that we've just talked about. It then allows you to split them by saying, now just show me the ones that come up with these guidelines that have been active in the last 30 days. And this is the game changer of Sales Navigator, because most people say, oh, I've got this list of 10,000 people. Oh, great. How many of them have been active in the last 30 days? They go, well, I don't know. Well, you do. And I guarantee you only want to be targeting that group, because a whole bunch of those others are going to be the ones that you talked about right at the start, David, who got an account one day 10 years ago and have never looked at it again. So you spend all this energy on these people who are never going to see anything you do anyway.
Now, is 30 days, that's the window? Like you can't say 7 days or 48 hours. It's sometime in the last 30 days, they logged in, they were active, they looked at something.
Well, what it means is they shared content in the last 30 days. So they get even higher level of, they've actually shared something on LinkedIn.
Okay.
But they're not necessarily the stalkers, for one of its term. The ones that they've actually shared something on LinkedIn.
Right.
I guarantee if you target that list, that your results will be 5 times better than targeting the other side. You can't do that at all in the free version.
Super quick commercial break. Isn't this interview amazing? If you'd like to get more ideas on how to start or grow your speaking business fast, pop over to our free training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. Let's talk about posting, because this also brings up, I think a lot of people are confused and they're doing it wrong. They're looking at it like Facebook. I'm just going to post 4 or 5 times a day. I'm going to post the status updates 4 or 5 times a day. I might throw up a long post, an article. I'll do that once a day, 7 a week. And they are cramming all kinds of things into LinkedIn. And they think they're doing a great job. Hey, it's content marketing. I've always got fresh content. Does LinkedIn like a lot of content? Does LinkedIn penalize you for over posting? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely they do. So again, as I alluded to earlier, I didn't go into it in depth, but I said that not all accounts are treated equally. As soon as you become what they deem as almost like a content marketer, which is you just, it may not even be spam. It could be actually quite good content. It's linked to your website and your blog articles and, all sorts of stuff, videos you've done and whatever. However, the reality is that once a day is the maximum, absolute maximum, one piece of content per day. And to be honest, though, we do 3 posts a week. That's it. Like every one of our clients, myself, we just post on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That is it. It's more of a quality over quantity. It's also about a mixture of content. So LinkedIn actually favors content creators that use a mixture between, native videos. Native video just means, you're uploading it directly to LinkedIn. You're not linking off to YouTube or Vimeo or something like that. So native video, status posts with an image, the polls. Polls are a great tool that they allow you to use now. It's quite new. and document posts, which what that means is you're able to upload like a PDF document, or it might be a slide presentation that you did, or something of value like that. So what they really prefer is people who use a mixture of all of those, more so than that it's always videos, or it's always just a status post or whatever. You got to have a mix of all of them.
And literally 3 times a week is optimal. Anything more than that, and it's too much, and it's too much noise. Anything less than that, and you don't show up in the feeds.
Well, you'll still show up in the feeds, but so David, I say it's a guideline, not a rule. Mm-hmm. So, I know plenty of people who post 5 times a week and get quite good traction. The difference is really what I'm kind of alluding to is really difficult to create that much good quality content. So, like a link to your blog post, we've already said, that you can't put just links to your blog posts and things like that. Really what they're looking for is they want content that keeps an audience on LinkedIn and keeps people creating a conversation and interacting in a conversation on LinkedIn. So I'll tell you the number one little ninja tip on content. And if you go and have a look at my profile, you'll see this very, very clearly. Every single post ends in a question. I ask a question every single time. The point is that it becomes much easier for people to engage if you ask a question. If you create closed loop content, what I mean by that is, you might give a great analysis of something that's hugely beneficial to someone in your industry, but you just kind of give them the facts, so to speak. People will come along and look at it and go, oh, that's great. David's post was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. And then they'll move on and they'll go and find something else to look at. If you did that and you ended that by saying, but I'd love to know your thoughts. What have you experienced in this industry? Or, let me know in the comments, do you agree with this or not? Then people want to actually, give their point of view. And the more that people do, then the more the algorithm says, oh, okay, so people clearly like this content, so let's show it to more people. Algorithmically, you've got to get a level of traction in the first couple of hours. And if you get that traction, then it's going to get opened up to a much wider part of your first degree connections. So remember when we went back right to your very first comment about what are the 3 steps, and I said one of them is who you're connecting with and why. So then they're showing all of this content to these people. And then if it still keeps getting more engagement, then they will open it to the wider LinkedIn community. So your content strategy, and getting back to why 3 times a week, it's really hard to write that much content that's at that level of thought leadership.
Right, for sure. Now, I'm also noticing that you are a frequent commenter on other people's posts and updates. So you're obviously eliciting comments from your followers and fans in that every post ends with a question, but you're also very generous in commenting, congratulating. Hey, Gordon, great point. Hey, Sally, love that analogy. How does that help you? Obviously, it helps them because it's their engagement and it helps boost them. Does that also bring people back to your profile, though?
Yeah, 100%. So there's 2 parts of that, David. The first part is when somebody comments on your post, you should always respond, even if it's just to thank them for doing it. Now, 2 reasons. One, people will respect you much more if you've acknowledged that they've gone to the trouble of commenting. They'll also be more likely to keep commenting on your other posts because they know that you're engaged, that you're responding. Again, it also tells LinkedIn's algorithms that this is a 2-way conversation. So one of the big things I see that often is done wrong is, some people who are thought leaders, I hate the term, but it's just the thing that people will resonate with, who post, and lots of people engage on it, but they never respond. And there's some people that kind of have this opinion that they're above having to comment and reply to people, and that they're at a certain level of status where, that's beyond them to do that. However, LinkedIn punishes that eventually. So if they see that the conversation is just one way and you as the author of the content are not responding, then they're less likely to continually show that in your feeds. So the second part of what you said was how I will go out and find other people's content and I'll comment on theirs. So if it's a good article or there's something of value there and I comment on that, Then, of course, all the people that are interacting on that post are seeing my profile. And if I'm putting a quite good, insightful comment there, I always, every day, I get people, coming to my profile and checking out me because they go, oh, well, who's this Adam Houlihan guy? That was quite a good comment he made. Or they'll send me connection requests or, whatever it is. So, and you'd be surprised at how little that takes. I probably spend about 1 hour a day on doing that type of thing, but it's a massive difference to the visibility that my profile gets.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you just as we're wrapping up here. What is the Adam Houlihan regimen? When do you get on LinkedIn? How much time do you spend crafting that Monday, Wednesday, Friday post? How much time do you spend reacting and interacting? How much time do you spend thanking people and acknowledging? Is there almost like a fitness routine for LinkedIn that you recommend?
We call it the daily rituals, but essentially, yes, exactly that. And what we coach with all of our clients is that's 1 hour per day, Monday to Friday. They don't have to be doing it on the weekends, though you can. I probably spend a little bit of time on a Saturday just because I like to, and I don't need to. And, but what that looks like, it's a little different each day. So there's our Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We know we're going to post. Therefore, we know that we're going to be engaging with people a lot more than normal. So most of that hour on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday will be spent on exactly that. On the Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's on the, responding to direct messages and, thanking people on their birthdays and things like that. So it's a bit of a mixture of things across the Monday to Friday week, but it's essentially, we have a framework we work to that requires about 1 hour a day. And absolute spoiler alert, David, it's okay. It's for some of this stuff to be done by a personal assistant or whatever. So I'm not suggesting the commenting and stuff like that really should be you. But some of the other, checking your inbound messages, let's be fair, there's a degree of that's low-level spam-like that you don't really need to respond to. You can have one of your assistants vetting that, and that's what I do. I would get, 100 plus messages a day. So I'll have one of my team go through and just get rid of all the spam rubbish stuff and just leave me a clean list of stuff to come in, at the end of the day and respond to. So, I'm not saying that whole hour has to be you. It can be with a trusted assistant. I will preface by saying that technically that is a breach of LinkedIn's terms of service, that you're not supposed to have anyone else accessing your profile. But let's be real. Do you think people like Richard Branson and Ariana Huffington and Tony Robbins and whoever else you want to name, you really think they're in there doing all this stuff themselves? I guarantee it's not.
All I know is David Newman is and Adam Houlihan is. That's all I know. And maybe even it's not always you, it's not always me, maybe.
Occasionally.
So last couple of quick questions. This has been so fantastic. Overall thematic idea that you want to leave people with LinkedIn, and then let's absolutely tell them about your fantastic gift that they need to pick up from you as part of the summit. But first, overall, kind of tie a ribbon around the big LinkedIn picture for us.
Yeah, LinkedIn is a content platform these days. It's all about content, but it's about high quality, not over posting, as we just talked about, mixture of content. There's quite a framework to the whole process, but the days of, he who had the most connections wins. I still see people bragging in their headlines saying 15,000 plus connections. And I'd say, well, 15,000 times I don't care. It's like, it's consistency and it's content. That's the two things that I'd really like people to take away from, at the very base level, be consistent and high quality content.
Tremendous. And then let's talk about what is the super secret gift that we're going to put in every summit participant's hand.
David, why don't we give them, I've written a couple of quite popular books. They're all Amazon bestsellers multiple times. My latest one's called Influencer, and it actually gives you the entire content framework we've been talking about and all the strategies on getting recommendations, which we talked about, and just really how to have a really high-level presence on LinkedIn. I'd love to gift a copy of that to anybody who would like one, and I'm sure they'll get great value out of that.
Tremendous. And we're going to have the URL for that Adam Houlihan, you're a rock star. I appreciate you. This was an awesome, amazing, amazing session. Thank you for being awesome.
My pleasure, David, and thank you for having me.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.